All right, strap in, everyone. Today we are taking a deep dive into Think Like a Freak by Stephen D. Levitt and Stephen J. Dubner.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
If you are listening to this, you're probably looking for the cheat codes to thinking differently.
That's right.
And this book, well, it's like a goldmine of unconventional wisdom.
It really is. And what's great about it is that it's not just for economists.
Right.
It's for anyone who wants to approach problems in a new way.
So we're talking like data-driven.
Data-driven for sure, but also just like creative.
Creative, yeah.
Like a detective almost.
Yeah, like a detective. Okay, so we're all about like getting to those aha moments.
Uh-huh.
Faster, right.
Exactly.
What's the first kind of mind-bending idea they throw at us?
Well, it might sound counterintuitive, but it all starts with embracing, I don't know.
Interesting.
The book opens with this anecdote about British school children.
Okay.
They're answering questions about a story.
Yeah.
Simple stuff. They nail it.
Okay.
But then they get hit with these unanswerable questions. Things that were not in the story, and what do? They just make stuff up.
So even as kids, we're already kind of hardwired to like BS our way through when we don't know something.
Yeah, it's like we're programmed to have an answer,
Yeah.
even if it's totally made up.
Is that kind of learning?
It is. And here's the thing, it doesn't stop in childhood.
Oh, no.
Experts, politicians, we're all prone to faking knowledge.
Right.
Especially when the stakes are high.
Makes sense.
Think about Philip Tetlock's research on political predictions.
Yeah.
He found that so-called experts were about as accurate as random chance.
Oh, wow.
Or that study by the CXO advisory group showing that stock market experts
Okay.
only got it right 47% of the time.
So basically listening to these experts is like flipping a coin.
Pretty much, yeah.
But how do we actually get better at admitting what we don't know?
Well, the book argues that embracing I don't know can actually be a strength.
How so?
It builds trust over time because people respect honesty.
Yep.
It's like that Ally Bank commercial with the Nobel Prize winner Thomas Sargent.
I think I've seen that one.
He gets asked about future CD rates, and he just replies, no.
That's so funny.
It's funny because it subverts our expectations, right?
Totally.
We expect these all-knowing gurus,
Yeah.
not straightforward honesty.
I mean, it's refreshing.
It is.
So by admitting what we don't know, we actually open ourselves up to like learning
Exactly.
and finding the right answers.
Oh, you got it.
So instead of blurting out the first thing that pops into our heads,
Right.
we should all maybe just pause for a second and be like,
Take a breath.
do I really know this? Or am I just like filling in the blanks?
I love that.
Okay, so we've tackled the I don't know thing.
Check. What's next? So the next big idea is all about redefining the problem.
Okay.
And the book uses this fascinating example. Takeru Kobayashi, the champion hot dog eater.
Wait, hot dog eating. What does that have to do with problem solving?
You'd be surprised.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So most competitors, they just focused on how to eat more hot dogs.
Right. More hot dogs equals winning rights.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But Kobayashi asked a different question.
What was that?
How can I make hot dogs easier to eat?
That is different.
He redefined the whole problem.
Interesting.
And he came up with these wild techniques like the Solomon method.
The Solomon method?
Yeah, and dunking the buns in water. It's crazy.
So he basically hacked the system by changing the rules of the game.
Exactly.
That's brilliant.
It is. And the result? He shattered the existing record.
By how much?
By double.
Whoa.
So what's the lesson here for us? Before diving into solutions,
Okay.
take a step back and examine the assumptions you're making about the problem itself.
That's good advice.
Like, what if Kobayashi had never questioned that eat more premise? He'd just be another hungry contestant,
This is making me rethink all those times I've jumped straight to solutions without really understanding the problem.
It happens to the best of us.
Okay, so we've got admitting we don't know. We've got reframing the question.
Two powerful tools.
What's next?
All right, this one's about getting to the root cause.
Ooh, the root cause.
Yeah, and this could be tricky.
How so?
Because the real cause isn't always obvious or convenient.
So give us an example, like a real-world aha moment where this comes into play.
Let's look at declining crime rates in the 1990s in the U.S.
Okay.
A lot of factors were credited, like increased policing.
Right, tougher on crime.
Yeah, but the book makes this bold claim.
That's that.
The biggest impact. Legalized abortion a generation earlier.
Whoa, okay. That's definitely not the first thing that comes to mind when you think about crime statistics.
It's provocative for sure.
But how do they connect those two things?
It's complex, But the idea is that fewer unwanted births led to a smaller cohort of young men,
Okay.
the demographic statistically most likely to commit crimes.
Right.
And just to be clear, this isn't about taking a stance on abortion.
Right, of course.
It's about highlighting how seemingly unrelated events can have these long-term ripple effects.
Interesting.
They also apply this kind of thinking to historical trends, like how the Protestant Reformation might have impacted Germany's economic success centuries later.
So it's like these butterfly effect scenarios where one tiny change
Exactly.
can snowball into something huge.
Exactly. And we should be looking for those deeper connections.
Instead of just addressing surface level issues.
Right. Think about it. You're dealing with a problem at work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Don't just slap a Band-Aid on it.
Okay.
Ask yourself,
Okay.
what are the deeper, maybe even historical factors at play here? What seemingly unrelated events might be influencing this situation?
It's like becoming a historical detective for your own problems.
I love that.
Okay, so we've got admitting we don't know. We've got reframing the problem.
Yep.
And digging for those root causes.
3 down.
What other freakish thinking skills can we add to our toolkit?
Well, this one might surprise you, but it's about the power of thinking small and having fun.
Thinking small.
Yep. You don't always need a grand, complex solution.
Okay.
Sometimes the most effective solutions are simple, almost deceptively so.
Give me an example. How can thinking small lead to big results?
The book highlights the impact of providing eyeglasses to school children in Gansu, China.
Okay.
A simple intervention,
Yeah.
but it led to massive improvement in test scores.
Wow, that's incredible.
And then there's the research on drunk walking.
Drunk walking.
Yeah, which it turns out is far more dangerous than most people realize.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So sometimes the most impactful solutions are staring us right in the face.
Often.
You just need to pay attention.
That's the key. Thinking like a freak is about noticing the obvious things that everyone else overlooks.
Right.
It's also about having fun.
Yes.
Remember Barry Marshall, the doctor who drank a beaker full of bacteria to prove ulcers were caused by H. pylori?
Oh, yeah, I remember that story.
That's dedication, but it's also a playful approach to science.
I mean, I admire the guy's commitment to his research.
Sure.
But I don't know if I'd go that far.
Maybe not.
But I get your point, like, approaching a problem with a sense of curiosity and playfulness can lead to these unexpected breakthroughs.
Total.
So instead of getting bogged down in complexity,
Right.
maybe we should all be looking for those simpler, more elegant solutions.
Simpler is often better.
And hey, maybe even have some fun along the way.
Exactly.
What's next on our Freakonomics journey?
Let's talk about incentives.
Okay.
We all know money motivates, right?
Sure.
But it's not always that simple.
Oh,
The book digs deep into the psychology of incentives.
okay.
And it's more nuanced than you might think.
All right, so unpack this for me.
How-
How do incentives work beyond just cold, hard cash?
Think about it. Have you ever done something just because everyone else was doing it?
Oh, yeah, totally peer pressure.
Exactly.
Right.
Or maybe you avoided something because it felt morally wrong,
Right.
even if there was no rule against it.
Like feeling like you're part of something bigger?
Yes. The book uses these 2 fascinating examples. Robert Cialdini's research on energy conservation in California.
Okay.
And, believe it or not, petrified wood theft at Petrified Forest National Park.
Wait, what does stealing petrified wood have to do with incentive?
It's all about understanding what motivates people.
Okay.
The researchers found that simply telling visitors not to take wood actually increased theft.
What? That's crazy.
It's because it sparked this rebellious, don't tell me what to do reaction.
Makes sense.
But when they framed the message as protecting the forest for future generations,
Okay.
theft plummeted.
So they responded to the moral incentive,
Exactly.
not the threat of punishment.
It's fascinating, right?
So it's like if you want to change behavior,
Yeah,
you need to understand the full spectrum of incentives, not just the obvious ones.
you got it.
This is giving me so much to think about.
And speaking of incentives done right,
Yes.
let's talk about Brian Mullaney and Smile Train.
Smile train. Okay.
He completely revolutionized charitable giving
How so?
by understanding what makes people donate.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's the secret sauce behind Smile Train's success?
They launched this brilliant once-and-done campaign
Okay.
that flipped the script on traditional fundraising.
Interesting. How?
Instead of asking for recurring donations,
Right.
they requested a single larger donation
Okay.
framed as a one-time investment to fix a child's cleft palate.
Oh, wow.
They leveraged social pressure by highlighting how many others had already donated.
Smart.
And they gave donors a sense of control.
Okay.
by emphasizing that 100% of their donation went directly to surgeries.
Wow. So they tapped into people's desire to make a tangible impact,
Yes.
be part of a movement, and feel like their money was being used effectively.
Hit all the right notes.
And guess what? It worked.
It did. The campaign led to a whopping 46% increase in donations.
That's amazing.
But the real genius,
Tell me.
they transformed the donor relationship from a transactional exchange
Okay.
to a collaborative partnership.
So it wasn't just about giving money. It was about being part of a shared mission.
Exactly.
That's powerful stuff. This whole incentives thing is like a secret code to human behavior.
It is. And speaking of understanding how people think and make decisions,
Yes.
let's introduce two seemingly unrelated figures who are masters of this. King Solomon and David Lee Roth.
Wait a minute. A wise king and a rock and roll wild man. What could they possibly have in common when it comes to problem solving?
You'd be surprised. Both of them understood how to use incentives to uncover the truth.
Really?
Oh yeah, they were strategic thinkers who knew how to set traps to reveal hidden information.
Okay, now I really want to know more.
But to find out exactly how they did it,
Yes.
well, you'll have to wait for part 2. Welcome back to our deep dive into Think Like a Freak.
Okay, so last time we left off with this total
The
cliffhanger.
cliffhanger indeed.
What do King Solomon and David Lee Roth have in common when it comes to problem solving?
The good one, right?
It is. I mean, one's a biblical king known for his wisdom.
Right.
The other's a rock star.
A rock star with a reputation.
Yeah. For being a bit demanding, let's just say.
But here's the thing. They were both incredibly adept at understanding incentives and using them strategically.
Interesting.
It's like they knew how to play human chess,
Okay.
setting up situations where the truth would just reveal itself.
So let's start with King Solomon.
Okay.
The book mentions the story about two women, both claiming to be the mother of the same baby.
Classic dilemma, right?
Yeah, like a he said, she said, but with a baby's life on the line.
Exactly. High stakes.
So how did Solomon, without DNA tests or anything, figure out who the real mother was?
So he proposes something radical.
Okay.
He suggests cutting the baby in half
Whoa.
and giving each woman a piece.
That's brutal.
It seems that way, right?
Talk about a lose-lose situation.
But Solomon was playing a deeper game here.
What do you mean?
He understood that true incentives aren't always about material gain or loss.
Okay.
He was appealing to something much deeper, a mother's love for her child.
Ah, I see where you're going with this. The real mother would be horrified,
Exactly.
whereas an imposter might actually agree to it.
Thinking they'll at least get something.
Right, a horrible, awful something. But yeah, I get it.
And that's how it played out.
It did?
The real mother begged Solomon to spare the child, even if it meant giving him to the other woman.
Wow.
The imposter, though, she agreed to the split.
Oh my gosh.
In that moment, their true intentions were exposed.
All thanks to Solomon's crazy idea.
It was crazy, like genius.
Yeah, he created a test that couldn't be faked.
Right.
Like no amount of arguing or pleading could have revealed the truth.
As effectively as that one shocking suggestion.
So how does David Lee Roth fit into all of this?
All right, so you know how he was famous for those crazy concert writers?
Oh, yeah, the ones with all the outlandish demands.
The M&Ms with all the brown ones removed?
Yeah. I always thought that was just rock star eccentricity.
Right. Seems like a diva move.
Totally. But you're telling me there was a strategy behind it.
There was. It was a test.
A test.
Buried in those crazy requests was this brilliant little check.
Okay.
If Roth walked backstage and saw that bowl of perfectly sorted M&Ms,
Yeah.
he knew the promoters had followed his instructions to the letter,
All right.
which meant they probably also paid attention to the more important parts of his rider.
The technical stuff.
Exactly, the stuff that ensured a safe and successful show.
So it wasn't about being picky.
No.
It was about making sure his team and the audience weren't at risk because someone didn't read the fine print.
Exactly, a low-stakes test with high-stakes implications.
Wow, if the M&Ms were wrong.
Red flag.
Yeah, he knew to double-check everything.
Exactly, same principle. Solomon used understand the incentives and create situations to reveal the truth.
Mind blown.
It's good stuff, right?
That is, I'm starting to see like a freak connections everywhere now.
I love it.
So we've got strategic thinking using incentives as a tool.
Yep.
What other counterintuitive ideas does the book throw at us?
Let's talk about persuasion. Even the most brilliant ideas are useless if you can't get other people on board.
True persuasion. That's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
We all want to be more influential, right?
Of course.
But so often it feels like talking to a brick wall.
I know that feeling.
So what's the secret?
Well, the book challenges a lot of conventional wisdom about how persuasion works.
Okay.
It argues that traditional approaches like focusing on logic and data
Right.
often backfire
Why is that?
because people are more complex than that.
Okay, so what's the freakish approach to changing people's minds?
It's about appealing to emotions,
Emotions.
not just facts.
What?
Think about it.
Okay.
What's more likely to stick with you, a dry statistic or a compelling story?
A good story for sure.
We're wired for narratives.
So how do we translate that into like actual persuasion?
It's all about framing.
Framing.
Instead of focusing on the negative consequences of a problem,
Right.
highlight the positive outcomes of the solution.
So it's like instead of saying, if we don't do this, everything will fall apart.
Yeah.
You say, imagine how amazing things will be if we make this happen.
Exactly. Get people excited about the possibilities.
Oh, okay. And is there more to it than that?
There is. Here's another key point.
Tell me.
Acknowledge the other side's perspective.
Okay.
Don't dismiss their concerns. Address them head on.
Interesting.
Show them that you understand where they're coming from.
Okay.
Even if you disagree.
Right.
It builds trust and creates a more collaborative dynamic.
So it's like you're saying, hey, I get you, but let's look at it this way.
Exactly.
It feels more like a conversation than a lecture.
And sometimes the most persuasive thing you can do
Yeah.
is simply ask questions
Okay.
and listen to the answers.
Give people space.
Exactly. Give people the space to articulate their thoughts and feelings.
This is reminding me of that saying.
What's that?
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right.
It is. Persuasion is about building relationships.
Not winning arguments.
Exactly. And remember, it's a process.
Right. Not a one-time thing.
It takes patience, empathy, and a willingness to adapt your approach.
So it sounds like the key to persuasion is
Yeah.
this blend of storytelling, emotional intelligence, and a genuine understanding of the other person's perspective.
You got it.
Yeah.
And all of this ties back to those core principles of think like a freak.
In what way?
It all comes down to a willingness to challenge conventional wisdom experiment and embrace a data-driven mindset.
Right, like be open to new ideas.
Be open to being wrong.
Okay.
And that's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, we are back for the grand finale of our deep dive into Think Like a Freak.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. From embracing, I don't know, to reframing those problems.
Unearthing those root
Very
causes.
thinking small.
Having fun.
Cracking the code of incentives.
We even talked about a wise king and a rock star.
That's right.
Using unconventional tactics to reveal the truth and persuade others.
But now comes the big question.
The big one.
How do we take all of this and actually apply it?
Yeah, how do we live like a freak?
Right, because it's one thing to understand these concepts like in theory,
Right.
but it's another to actually put them into action.
The book doesn't just want us to read like a freak.
Right.
It wants us to live like one.
So it's about making a choice,
A conscious choice.
Yeah, to approach challenges in a new way.
Break free from those default ways of thinking.
Right, all those patterns that keep us stuck.
Exact. Remember, the easy problems have already been solved.
Right.
It's the tough ones, the ones that need a fresh perspective that lead to those breakthroughs.
So embrace our inner freak.
Yes.
Be willing to question everything, even those truths that everyone else seems to accept.
Don't just go with the flow.
Right, no more comfort zone.
That means experimenting, trying things that might seem crazy at first.
Right, like Barry Marshall chugging that bacteria.
Oh, yeah.
Or Kobayashi dunking those hot dog buns.
Classic examples.
Sometimes those unconventional approaches are the ones that really get results.
That's where the magic happens.
It's like the book is giving us permission to be a little bit reckless.
I wouldn't say reckless.
Okay, maybe not reckless, but like bold.
Bold, yes.
And, okay, maybe a little reckless.
A little bit.
But the point is to be comfortable with failure.
Oh, absolutely, because not every experiment will be a success.
True, but even those failures can teach us something.
Exactly. They're valuable lessons.
But like that Thomas Edison quote, right?
About the light bulb.
Yeah, finding 10,000 ways that didn't work.
Before he found the one that did.
So we've got to reframe our relationship with failure.
Big time.
See it as feedback, not the end of the world.
Failure is just data.
Data.
Yeah, it's a sign that we need to adjust our approach.
Tweak it.
Tweak it, exactly. The key is to learn from those setbacks and keep iterating.
Keep pushing.
Keep pushing the boundaries.
Okay, so speaking of data, that's another big theme in Think Like a Freak, right? Freaks are all about measuring and analyzing information.
Data-driven decision-making.
Yeah, it's not just about gut feelings.
Yeah.
It's about using data to test those hypotheses and make smarter choices.
You got it.
Remember that California energy study?
Oh, yeah.
By actually measuring energy consumption, they debunked this myth.
That moral appeals are the most effective.
All right.
Turns out, good old-fashioned social pressure,
Peer pressure.
the herd mentality had a much bigger impact.
So it's not enough to just have a good idea.
Nope.
We need to gather the data, analyze the trends, let the numbers guide us.
Data is king.
But data alone isn't enough, right?
It's not what's missing.
It's a story.
The story, exactly. Remember what we talked about with persuasion?
Yeah.
Even the most compelling data needs a good story to bring it to life.
Because at the end of the day, we're emotional creatures.
We connect with narratives.
They help us make sense of the world and inspire us to take action.
And that's where the power of storytelling comes in.
Okay, I'm with you.
If you want to persuade someone, don't just hit them with facts and figures.
Right.
Tell them a story. Paint a picture. Make them feel something.
Make it real.
That's how you create lasting change.
So we need both the logic and the emotion to connect with people.
I think that's what makes Like a Freak so compelling.
What do you mean?
Levitt and Dubner, they're masters at weaving together data logic and storytelling.
Okay.
They take these complex ideas and make them accessible, even entertaining.
Right, through examples and anecdotes.
And humor.
It's like they're giving us a toolkit and a blueprint.
Exactly.
Here's how to think differently, here are the tools to use, and here's how it works in the real world.
Your turn now.
What do you mean?
Now that you've had a taste of thinking like a freak,
Yeah.
what problem in your life could benefit from this approach?
Oh, that's a good question.
What assumptions are you clinging to that might be holding you back?
It's like, what if today was the day you decided to break free?
Break free from those mental constraints.
Yeah, and see the world through a freakish lens.
It's not about being the smartest person in the room.
Right.
It's about being the most curious, the most open-minded.
The most willing to experiment.
Embrace, I don't know, and set out on that quest for knowledge.
Ask the right questions, even if they seem silly.
Or obvious.
Redefine the problem.
Challenge the status quo.
Focus on those tiny details everyone else misses.
Have fun. Be playful. Approach life with a sense of wonder.
Understand the power of incentives.
Use them to motivate yourself and others.
Use data logic and storytelling to persuade and inspire.
That's it.
So go out there.
And think like a freak.
The world is waiting for your unique perspective and your unconventional solutions.
We can't wait to see what you discover.
Until next time, happy thinking.